Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is ToxicSpill, and today we're gonna be finally making up for the time. What I mean by this is, on the channel, I have, of course, the StarCraft 2 co-op guides. However, Blizzard released an update a while back in around the 7th video of the Prestige system. Game-breaking changes to every single commander, therefore rendering all previous 6 videos before that completely and utterly obsolete. So today, after a year and a half and being constantly bombarded by comments to finally cover this stuff, we are finally covering it. In this video, I will be talking about Raynor, Kerrigan, Artanis, Swann, Zagara, and Vorazun. So if you're not familiar on how any of those commanders work at all, that's okay. There's a link in the description for every single co-op guide commander and how they work. And just before we start, if you absolutely love the video, if you love the content, hell, if you love me, and you find yourself returning often, be sure to scroll down below and hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with all of the content coming your way. Hit that bell icon to make sure you're notified with every single video release as they come out. Now, with all this being said, let's get right into it. Now, we start out, ladies and gentlemen, with a really strong one being Raynor with Backwater Marshal. This one is really all upsides with little to no downsides whatsoever. All biological combat units, being Marines, Marauders, Firebats, Medics, have a 100% more health. This is an absolutely insane boost because the only downside is you don't get mules. If you don't know what a mule is, you've already understood half the reason why. Next one is very interesting, and this is where the negative comments start with Rough Rider, where you allow your units to use drugs. Let me explain. See, all infantry units have this ability called Stim Pack, or at least most. Stim Packs allow the slight reduction in their total health, however jacking up their attack speed and movement speed. This prestige allows vehicles to have that ability as well. And even with medics being able to heal mechanical units with an upgrade, which is phenomenal, all vehicle units are extremely fast, therefore leaving the medics exposed and going to get absolutely wiped off the map. And the units that actually use it, well, I wouldn't exactly call them phenomenal at all, because you use vulture bikes. Look at these things. They're fucking terrible. Rebel Raider. Rebel Raider is good for one thing only, and that, of course, is Battle Cruiser Spam. Battle Cruiser Spam is not the most effective strategy in the world, but it's definitely one of the most entertaining. Building these giant cruisers, and how you do it so early is this prestige rank allows you to skip the tech requirements on that stuff. You don't need to build a barracks and then unlocks the factory and then it unlocks a starport. No, you can build a starport right off the beginning of the game. Again, Backwater Marshal, probably the best. Rough Rider, eesh. And Rebel Raider definitely is dependent on your playstyle. Next, we move on to Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades, and I had a lot of problems with her for a lot of reasons. Now, Malevolent Matriarch is very, very interesting because it basically jacks up the creep tumor, and it basically increases the effect by 100%. More speed, more health regeneration, more attack speed, just generally better in every single way. However, Nidus Worms are not available, which, I mean, is fine. You're still traveling at a fast speed, you just change the method. Now, Folly Man is one I generally wouldn't recommend because all it really does is jack up Kerrigan's ability to fight. What this means is her basic attacks are pretty terrible, and she has less defensive ability, but every time she uses a basic attack, she essentially charges up her ability to then unleash those ability attacks that do a lot of damage. Generally okay. She's already powerful as is. In my opinion, she doesn't really need this upgrade. And then finally, we got the Desolate Queen. Basically, this is when Kerrigan was somewhat infected with Zerg. You can actually play it in the heart of the Swarm campaign, literally the first level you can play it. He basically gets a 100% increase to her Assimilation aura, and she gets new abilities being Kinetic Blast, which basically replaces Leap without, well, leaping. Crushing Grip stuns enemies, can even reveal cloaked and burrowed units, and she becomes more of a support hero than a damaging hero. Pretty solid overall prestige ranks. With Artanis, it's very, very interesting. Various Inspirator, hopefully I'm saying that right, increases combat units' abilities by 100%. High Templars, Archons, Phoenixes, Reavers generally are more focused. However, units cost 30% more gas and minerals. So definitely a hard sell if you're not going to make an army with these guys. Nexus Legate is next, which allows the mobile power field to have 0 cooldown, however costs 25 energy, taking away from all of your other abilities, which might be a hard sell. Every unit inside of the power field, that when you move it to a new location, automatically transports them over at the cost, of course, of energy. This really makes up for his slow movement around the map. Now, speaking of around the map, we have this terrible prestige rank called the Arc Ship Combatant. Basically, it jacks up all of your orbital abilities, basically everything but the power field. However, generally takes away a lot of your defensive capabilities. Overall, I'd say the basic one is the best, but if you want to go a specific build, choose one of the 3. Now we have Swann with the Heavy Weapon Specialist. The giant laser drill with the power of the sun loses all of its abilities. The drill now does splash damage, so it can kill attack waves relatively easily. It slows enemy down and switches targets faster, which is kind of okay. At the start of the game, the thing's ass. However, when you have this thing fully upgraded with all of its damage increases, it can do a lot of work. Next up, we have Grease Monkey, entirely dedicated for defense. All turret upgrades, including range and damage, fire suppression, all increased by 100%, and combat units cost, of course, 50% more gas. Generally defensive focus, which is great because you have a variety to choose from with this commander. The final one, Payload Director, this one's a funny one. Take this giant transport, right? This thing at basic, it's ass. Completely and utterly useless. However, this prestige doubles the cargo capacity, which is already immense. And you can deploy troops instantly. That might not sound like a lot of good abilities. However, the devastating part about this is you can put in the transport pre-deployed siege tanks. So you can take 2 transports like I'm doing here, transport them around the map, drop all the troops out, and utterly annihilate anything within range. Nothing survives this much siege tanks. I don't care how much hybrid you have. Is it the best strategically? Absolutely not. But this thing, it's just, look at this strategy. It's so dumb, but it works. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be honest and say that this one for Zagara Scourge Queen was definitely one that I thought I would be a little bit more harsher on, but after actually playing some of it, genuinely is pretty awesome. So Zigara is completely taken out, which is a big problem because you lose Infested Frenzy and stuff like that, which is a big problem. However, in the Ascension perks, if you take all the points out of that and you just put it all into Zerg maneuverability, where they have basically a 45% chance of just flat out avoiding damage, which is absolutely insane, making Zerglings some of the most unkillable things in the game. Your supply limit in the game is increased from 100 to 150, which is an absolutely insane amount of Zerglings you can then put into your game. Your total free banelings you get is generally from 4 to 8. In general, Scourge Queen is about taking Zagara out of the mix and generally having swarms of infantry that just wipe out the map. However, losing Infested Frenzy definitely is a pretty big deal. Mother of Constructs has an overall focus on Aberrations and Corruptors, which are the only 2 real durable units she actually has, with more health and health regeneration. However, you do lose your free units, which might help you from the beginning of the game. Overall, a solid prestige. Finally, you have Apex Predator, which just jacks up Zigara by a ton. She gets Deep Tunnel, which she can transport around the map for free. She gets increased cooldown reductions, health, energy regeneration, the whole thing. Zigara is already good standalone, but I feel that for Zigara, she definitely plays the more of the support role in the army rather than playing the damage role, at least late game. But yeah, in general, I'd say Zagara Scourge Queen, highly recommend, genuinely really fun, where Mother of Constructs and Apex Predators are definitely more up to you. They're not bad, they're just not as great towards the rest of her kit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the final one is Vorazun. Now, I don't really have a lot of positive things to say about her because it's just, they're not that great. You got Spear of Respite, which is my favorite and the one I think you should obviously go for. Dark Pylons cost less and have less cooldown. The reason why this is great, Dark Pylons, when you upgrade them fully, they can have a huge radius so they can power your entire base, and every single unit and structure inside of it is cloaked, which adds base protection and army protection because you can deploy it more often. However, you do lose the ability to use them as teleportation beacons for your army, which does suck a bit. Withering Scion. This thing is ass. Your combat units generally do less damage but more ability damage, and you specialize in a certain unit that isn't that great. Even spamming them is just not fun. 10 out of 10 would not go for. Moving on. And the final of the prestige ranks is Keeper of Shadows. Now, Keeper of Shadows is really interesting because it turns the utility ability Time Stop, which is very powerful, into a burst damage while still stopping time. Let me explain. So Time Stop now becomes a targeted ability, which puts into question its entire cooldown duration, which even with all the upgrades is still extensively long. For now, this ability becoming targeted allows it to spawn all of the Shadow Guard that you have used during this match on that one point to then do devastating amount of damage. Even with the 40% cut to their duration on the battlefield, it still is an immense power since you can stack this up relatively fast, assuming you have the energy to spare. So this prestige rank overall is not bad, but I would say that taking away the global effect of Time Stop is definitely a hard bargain. But that is about it, ladies and gentlemen. All these prestige ranks for all these 6 commanders that I have then failed to mention in this video have now been recovered. Raynor, Backwater Marshal I'd highly recommend. Kerrigan, Malevolent Matriarch. Artanis, None. Swann, Payload Director. Zagara, Scourge Queen. And Vorazun, Spirit of Respite. In general, this is truly the end of the StarCraft 2 co-op guide, which is kind of crazy. The series has been going on for a lot longer than it needed to. But I'm gonna leave it right there, ladies and gentlemen. If you absolutely love the content, once again, please subscribe to the channel. It generally supports me and my work. And with all this being said, I will see you all in the next one. This is ToxicSpill. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and remember, do what you love. Signing off.